This is a Blaze Radio production.
We're covering who's on deck,
hitting the ice on the hockey scene,
and hosting a racing roundtable.
This is sports.
This is news.
This is everything you need to know about the future.
This is the Scoutin' Session.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome in. It's a lovely Wednesday afternoon here in the Bill Austin studio. My name is Noah Reed alongside
Jordan Talley.
And we do want to send out our well wishes to our other host, Ella Wolter-Sánchez. She couldn't be here today, and we also want to send out some thoughts and prayers to Madison Holder. Not sure what's going on there. Hopefully you guys are doing good, but we've got some great young talent here to showcase. Jordan, it's a packed show. Are you excited?
Yeah. Back in my comfort zone, back in hockey, back in the WHL, so yeah.
Yeah, why don't you go take it away? Like you said, back in the WHL. We got Hit the Ice. We're returning.
All right, so today we are highlighting Scott Ratzlaff, the 2005 born goaltender from Irma, Alberta, Calgary. He is 19 years old, 6'1", left-handed catcher, and is in his third season in the WHL with the Seattle Thunderbirds. If you know anything about me, it's that I am a Seattle native, and that is one of my only personality traits, I feel like, when it comes to the show. So let's dive right in. Ratzlaff was just granted WHL goalie of the week after a stellar performance on the Birds' recent road trip. I thought, you know what, this guy, he's really good. I mean, I've watched him for the past few years, and I've been wanting to get him on the show, so what perfect opportunity than him being granted goaltender of the week in the Western Hockey League. So, in the last 5 games Seattle has played, he has gotten the start in 4, allowing only 7 goals on 129 shots faced, with a save percentage of 94.85.
That's insane. 94. Like, how do you... Like, that's like video game numbers, I feel like.
So for him, he's a stellar goaltender, just regardless. Like, you watch him, and he's extremely athletic, tracks the puck very well, very mobile in the crease. One of these, he just had like a stellar road trip. I'm trying to pull up some of his stats right now. Against Portland, they played Portland in one of their games. I'm not sure if this was the one they lost or the one they won. They played Portland twice in the past week, and he recorded 40 saves on 42 shots on goal with a save percentage of .952. And against Wenatchee the other day, he had 28 saves and a shutout win, 4-0, and it was his first shutout of the season. So, I mean, just insane numbers. I feel like with a very decent goalie, you're getting especially one that plays as much as him, you're getting a goalie with a save percentage of high 80s, low 90s. But him being, almost at a 95 save percentage and only his past 4 games, like, that's kind of insane. Like, if you're a shooter and you're going up against Scott Ratzlaff, there's a 95% chance that puck is not going in net. So, kind of crazy. In his last 10 contests, he has gotten the start in 8 and allowed only 19 goals on 238 shots faced. Like I said, Ratzlaff recorded his first shutout of the season this past Sunday against the Wenatchee Wild, and one of the stellar victories in this past campaign has been from an overtime win against the Gavin McKenna-led Medicine Hat Tigers.
Hey, shout out to the past.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of talk about him. I mean, about me, I love talking about Gavin McKenna. I'll talk about him anywhere I can. He's just an amazing, competitive, awesome athlete, and he's just absolutely stellar. So the Thunderbirds came out with a 4-3 overtime win. Not sure if it was in a shootout. I'm pretty sure it might have been. And yeah, Ratzlaff, once again, just great reading all those shots, especially from such a high caliber team like the Medicine Hat Tigers, and where you have elite shooters like Gavin McKenna. So yeah.
Real quick, you said this was an overtime victory?
Yes.
Did you at all see the highlights of this game or no?
I think I saw the last shootout goal, but not quite. It's really hard to get a hold on a lot of these WHL games. So.
I figured as much just because of the league differences,
yeah.
But I know that it was a crazy weekend for hockey. And this doesn't pertain to the show.
Oh,
but I haven't talked to you about this yet, so I'm sure you've got a lot to say. And we'll keep it quick because it's not Scoutin' Session. But what did you think of the USA versus Canada hockey game?
I mean, it was amazing. I mean, genuinely some of the best hockey I've seen played. Not necessarily skill-wise, but just the guttural, like, visceral hatred that these two teams have towards each other and their fan bases. Like, I mean, this past game, the USA versus Canada, was in Montreal, so it was in Canadian territory. They booed the national anthem. Like, Team USA had a lot of, they had a lot to go in there and prove, and they did just that. I mean, 3-1. Not to be a hater or anything, show my bias, but how do you lose 3-1 to a USA team when you have all-time generational talents like Sidney Crosby, Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, Mitch Marner, Brad Marchand? All of those are top 30 to 40 guys in the league, and you're going to lose to Team USA, who has maybe a couple of super household names like Austin Matthews. And I just want to shout out the Tkachuk brothers because they genuinely just like hold so much passion for the game, especially representing their country. I mean, they both played in Canada at some point. Matthew played with Calgary. Now he's in Florida. And Brady Tkachuk is the captain of the Ottawa Senators. So, I mean, especially them getting to play together on the same line. It was Tkachuk, Eichel, Tkachuk on that, like, starting lineup for the Team USA. Such a beautiful connection. Also, we haven't hit this. I'm just going to hit on it really quickly. 3 fights in the first 9 seconds of the game, 2 of them courtesy of the Tkachuk brothers going. Their father, Keith Tkachuk, played in the NHL as well. He was a big fighter, especially known for his fights in the international tournament in the 90s, where he dropped the gloves against Canada as well. So it was awesome to see, kind of living out the Tkachuk legacy there. But it was just absolutely amazing. I mean, as a hockey fan, too, you always hear about Canada versus USA or like stuff like that. I mean, there's a lot of national pride in hockey that I feel like doesn't get discussed a lot just because it's like not our sport, but it was phenomenal. I don't know if you got to see any of it.
I did get to see highlights. I got to see, reaction. I can't remember what I was doing, but I remember passing by the lounge and seeing the entire floor 10 lounge crowded with people to watch a hockey game. I was like, oh, what's on? And so I, of course, obliged. I was on X, and I saw the aftermath of the game playing out on the X trends. But back to Ratzlaff. Ratzlaff, sorry.
No, you're good.
I'm just all tongue-twisted because, again, I hadn't had a chance to talk to you about this, and I figured you, of all people, would have a great take. Yeah. So sorry we went on a little bit of a side tangent to all those listeners. We'll get right on back into the best youth that you'll probably see in a USA versus Canada matchup in the next maybe 5-10 years. Who knows?
Yeah. So, like I said, once again, Ratzlaff was recognized as WHL Goalie of the Week. And the week, he recorded 3 wins with a goals allowed average of 1.33 per game, which is also insane, and a save percentage of .959 in this last week, pushing his record to 8-1 in his last 9 games starting. Ratzlaff was chosen 141st overall in the 2023 NHL entry draft by the Buffalo Sabres. You got something to say about that?
Was this before he had like this stellar stats? Because I'm looking at 141. I'm like, how would you go 141 when you're putting up unrealistic numbers? But okay, that makes a little more sense.
So he was draft eligible before he was really a starter in the WHL. The 2023, he just turned 18. So Thomas Milik was the powerhouse name for the Seattle Thunderbirds then. He was kind of a backup goalie, maybe third goalie, maybe not getting dressed every game. But, but he's just stellar. Buffalo, really, especially in Buffalo, they need all the help they can get. But he's just an awesome, awesome goalie. So he's currently on contract. He signed his entry-level contract at the beginning of this season. So like we talked about a little bit with Berkeley Catton, who we'll also bring up later, with his like almost like not two-way contract, but he is an entry-level player with the Kraken. So Ratzlaff is also in that same boat, having his rookie contract. Before the draft, this was a quote from Elite Prospects 2023 NHL Draft Guide, Ratzlaff can catch shooters by surprise with quickness and a unique approach off the rush. He is very aggressive in terms of depth that he takes. He remains stoic as the shooter bears down, never showing his hands first. If the puck gets too close, he pounces and makes a move. And that's just, I feel like, goes to show a lot of him. That's pretty much him in a nutshell. He's a a spectacular goalie. Reed's, like I said, Reed's plays very well, very athletic, very aggressive. And he's a big guy, too, so that's always a bonus increase when you have a bigger guy in net. So going back before his time at kind of as a starter with the Thunderbirds, in 2023, he was a Hlinka Gretzky Cup gold medalist, like we talk about with a lot of these WHL guys going in these international tournaments, where he represented Team Canada, and in 4 games played, he went 4-0-0 in the record column, a goals allowed average of half a goal a game, and a save percentage of .976, and 2 of those victories in that 4-game tournament were also shutouts. So not only he won every game in regulation, actually he won every game, not sure in regulation, but his goals allowed average was less than a goal a game. So absolutely insane. Also in 2023, Ratzlaff and the Thunderbirds were named WHL champions. Last season he was granted WHL US Division 2nd All-Star team, especially after his performance last year. I think he should have been first All-Star, but that's just me. Seattle's been on sort of a rough patch as of recently. They've lost kind of a couple of guys. So even him being not on the greatest team in the WHL, he's still putting up awesome numbers. And currently, Seattle sits still in the playoff picture. They have not been eliminated yet, and they've been on somewhat of a heater since the trade deadline, which also had me in my feels as a Seattle fan, losing some prominent guys like Sawyer Mineo. But this team has actually found their footing, and they're finding that chemistry. There's some not big house names, I guess, but some up-and-coming names for the draft, like we've talked about on the pilot episode. Captain Braden Coots, up-and-coming forward. He'll be draft eligible, I think, he's draft eligible this year. Defenseman Radim Murkta, who's from Czechia, coming up in the rankings for, he's also eligible this year for the draft, and he's a high prospect out of the WHL. So those are 2 guys that have also been kind of carrying this team as well. But, they haven't been doing their best, but they're getting there, especially after the trade deadline. They've made some magic happen a little bit, chemistry probably heating up, especially with some of the new guys that they've got. So on the season, Ratzlaff is 21-26-1 and 52 games played with a goals allowed average of 3.33 and a save percentage of about 90%, which, like I said, decent goalies usually have high 80s, low to mid 90s save percentage. So he's still a great goalie, even maybe the record book's not saying so on paper. So that's all I have for Ratzy. Anything else on you before we kind of move on to this next segment?
I mean, I think this is just what I really love about this is, okay, maybe he didn't get the recognition that he deserved in the 2023 draft, sitting at that 141 number.
5th round too, by the way, which is insane.
But I feel if I'm, Ratzlaff, I'm thinking, okay, they've undervalued me, so I'm gonna go prove it to him. And I feel like all the stats, all those numerology that you just listed off, like I can't preface that a 95% save average in any sport is absolutely unreal. Yeah. And with the growing understanding that I've had over hockey, it is just I'm mind blown. But I know we were checking in also on Berkeley Catton. What you got on him?
He was also highlighted this past week. Berkeley Catton, another WHL player that we've highlighted a few weeks ago, about a month ago, was also recognized by the Western Hockey League as Player of the Week, recording, let me get this, you think Ratzlaff's goals stats are impressive, which they are, but 2 goals, 7 assists, and 9 points in just 3 games. So that's like 3.5, what is that? Like almost 4, quite a bit of multi-point nights for Berkeley Catton. Catton currently sits 2nd in total points with 90, below league-leading Gavin McKenna, who had 99. And the Spokane Chiefs currently have clinched their playoff spot. So they're smooth sailing for the rest of the season. They have about a month left before the playoffs start. But like we said, we have the Spokane Chiefs, who demolished Seattle when they played them their last time in a 9-1 victory. But smooth sailing for the Chiefs going forward, Also, Berkeley Catton, another guy who was drafted super high overall to the Seattle Kraken. I think last year he was 8th overall, 8th or 9th overall. So Yeah, I mean, just checking back in on the talent, and I'll always keep doing that because numbers are always changing and new players always are coming and going. And sorry, I was just remembering what I was going to say. Going back to Ratzlaff really quick with the draft thing, it's also really hard for goalies to go super, super high in the draft. They're like those positions that it's like not like once in a lifetime, but you don't see many going super, super high. Like, I think the last time a goalie was drafted first overall was Marc-Andre Fleury, like 21 years ago now in 2003. So, but yeah. Lots of stuff in the WHL. Lots of things keep changing. We'll see how the Thunderbirds do, especially as a fan. I think I'll be there for spring break when they still have some regular season games left.
Okay.
So I'll probably be seated at the show there a few times while I'm there, but to see that final push if they're not eliminated already. But, the Thunderbirds are definitely on a little bit of a rebuild. So it's good seeing these, performances, especially Ratzlaff. I think he has one more year of eligibility left if this isn't his last year. So, yeah. lots to look forward there, especially in a rebuilding Seattle. I'll probably talk about more of the Seattle guys going on, especially since they're being kind of highlighted and talked about in big hockey media like TSN, and Radim Merkta will probably make an appearance on the show eventually. But yeah.
Yeah, well, lots of good stuff going on in the hockey scene. We're going to throw the green flag on the racing roundtable for this week. We had a driver hailing from Oaxaca in Mexico, the 19-year-old NASCAR Mexico Series driver. I'm going to do my best. Forgive me if I say this wrong. Eloy Sebastián López Falcón. And he's just been absolutely tearing up the ranks. I cannot preface this. But first, we got to rewind to how he got his start. So he began his career like most people do on the karting scene. We talked about several drivers who started with karting scene already on this show. So flashback to 2010, Eloy became the first Super Karts Cup Grill champion, and he initially, and Jordan, you'll like this, had his set on F1.
Yes!
In fact, he was the first Mexican driver to receive a pass to the Rodex Grand World Championship in the Kingdom of Bahrain. I looked this up. This is a no-joke event. Hundreds upon hundreds of drivers have rolled their way through this World Championship event. It's incredible. I encourage you just to do a quick Google later on. But you know what? Eloy decided to make a transition. He moved to stock car racing in 2021 when he made his debut in the NASCAR Mexico Truck Series, where he claimed the championship in his rookie season. A little bit Lightning McQueen vibes, I'm gathering. A few years later, he was part of the 2023 NASCAR Drive for Diversity class. And then in 2024, he claimed the NASCAR Mexico Challenge Championship, made his first trip to the United States for select races. And so we're going to take a quick break for our fast fact of the week. And so we're going to break down the international NASCAR scene, because I'm sure you're probably thinking to yourself, wait a minute, the NASCAR Mexico Series? Well, fun fact, Jordan, there's also the NASCAR Canada Series as well.
Okay.
So North America is being very well represented on the stock car side of things. So yes, as you know, NASCAR, the National Association of Stock Car Auto Racing, primarily an American-based touring series, but it is not just limited to the States. The sanctioning body has been racing in Mexico as far back as 2004, and they also purchased the top stock car series in Canada all the way back in 2006. They brought the Xfinity Series, which is NASCAR's second-tier series, to Montreal from 2007 to 2012. They also ran at the Autodrome Hermanos Rodriguez road course. And guess what, guys? If you haven't heard, they're going to return with the addition of the NASCAR Cup Series this year. For the first time, the NASCAR Cup Series has raced internationally. July 15th, it's going to be exclusively streamed for the first time ever on Prime Video. So it's going to be a very... that might be incorrect.
Is it HBO?
It is on HBO.
Because
sorry.
I was gonna ask you about that, because I think didn't NASCAR just sign like a exclusive streaming deal with HBO?
They signed a $7.7 billion television rights deal with Fox, Prime, HBO Turner, and NBC. So it's a little complicated. I won't get into the logistics. You can refer to Eric Estep, NASCAR Weekly Podcast, Jeff Gluck, The Teardown, anyone else who is a lot more qualified to speak on the subject than myself. But as far as just the fast fact goes, A lot of people forget that NASCAR is very deeply rooted internationally. There, a lot of talk about going back up to Montreal. That was, there was big rumors about that with the schedule as, last year. And so they're talking again, going internationally. There's even been rumors of a exhibition race being held in Brazil, which I think would be very, very interesting. Not sure how it would work logistically, but NASCAR has raced in Japan in the past for several exhibitions. So it's not out of the question. But yeah, that's kind of do it for our fast fact this week. We're going to head on back to Eloy because he made several starts behind the wheel of a late model with Rev Racing, which of course we've talked at length about the late model scene, and Rev Racing, of course, we talked about with Lenny Bice. So he piloted the number 6 machine, and he was nothing short of impressive, scoring a win at Southern National Motorplex Park, and now entering his 3rd season with Rev Racing support. Eloy is set to run the NASCAR Advanced Auto Parts Weekly Series, and just kind of to give you a little bit of inside the mind of Eloy, when speaking with reporters, he said his dream is to become a NASCAR Cup Series driver, and quote, as a Mexican, this is a big opportunity to come here and make a dream come true. Not only is this young man full of talent, but he has become a role model for the racing movement across his home country. Quote, for me, I'm very proud to be Mexican and obviously represent the Latino community. So I just want to take a pause right here. Mm-hmm. This is a guy who is at 19 years old, coming from across, to the United States to drive cars that he's not familiar with a team that's not familiar with a language barrier that he's not familiar with. And to set the scene, another driver has already paved this path. Daniel Suarez, he talked, in several interviews in the past about how he struggled with the language barrier really early on in his career, but he became a NASCAR Xfinity Series champion, and he's now racing in the Cup Series for Trackhouse Motorsports. Trackhouse Racing. So we've already seen this path already set, and Eloy's just trying to, I feel like, keep that floodgate bursting, because we've only seen so far one, but I mean, you look at the Daytona 500 from this weekend, and there was multiple countries represented. So yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, this just reminds me of like Checo Perez in F1, right? He's a big, well, he was a big name in F1. I mean, he still kind of is, but he's not racing anymore. But I mean, huge when Mexico City, that whole, sorry, let me back up a little bit. Mexico loves their motorsports. And like you said, it's an underrepresented country in motorsports, but they go all out for their motorsports. Like Mexico City, every year Checo was racing. It's an atmosphere. I mean, they're just so proud to have racers represent them in the biggest racing stages of the world, right? You see F1 drivers, NASCAR drivers now being able, so yeah, like people love Checo. Like obviously Formula One's my stomping grounds in motorsports, so just going back to that, people love Checo because he raced for Red Bull, arguably, at least right now, the best team to race for in F1, at least in the past like 10 to 12 years. So I mean, yeah, it's just that it's awesome to see that pride to represent your country and be supported by your country as well.
Yeah, and I'll bring up another driver, Pato O'Ward.
Yeah, Pato.
We love Pato. He's awesome. It was so funny because I'm sitting there at the Super Bowl, and it's commercial break, and they put up the IndyCar on Fox. This is Pato O'Ward. And there's 2 girls who I'd never even seen before go, oh my gosh, I love Pato. And I was like, you guys are IndyCar fans? They're like, I just love Pato. I'm like,
Pato.
Okay.
Everyone loves Pato.
I mean, it's hard not to love Pato. I'm gutted that he has still not won the Indianapolis 500. But again, McLaren's going to be strong every year, and month of May is getting closer, guys.
So I'm a McLaren fan. So I don't really watch IndyCar.
You should.
I should. I'm going to this
really
year.
should.
I promise you. I'm going to this year.
You can't have an excuse because it's all on Big Fox now.
I know. So I'm going to watch IndyCar this year, but as a McLaren fan, like, everyone loves Pato. Everyone who's not a McLaren fan loves Pato. He's just such a fun guy and a great personality on the track. So, yeah.
Yeah, so now, of course, back to Eloy. I just love that his story is one of just grit and resilience, and he's got so much talent, and he's still got so much time to develop. Rev Racing, we've talked at length that they've done so much for drivers like Kyle Larson, Bubba Wallace, And you see those drivers being successful now 10 years past when they were with Rev Racing. And it's just exciting because you know that it's a good group that he's got around him. He's got other young drivers. He kicked off his season 2025 Icebreaker 125 at Florence Motor Speedway just back February 8th. Finished 14th in the race, did beat out his teammate. And I did just want to quickly give a shout out to Lainey Boyce, who we talked about earlier. We highlighted her a few weeks back. She came third in the finishing results after getting wrecked. That was incredible. Just shouting her out. She's got, a lot of support. She's wheeling the car that Brendan Butterbean Queen, who awesome name by the way, he wheeled that car to a championship in the Cars Tour Series last year. Well, fun fact about Mr. Queen. Well, he scored a win on the biggest stage, the ARCA race at Daytona. Over 1 million viewers tuned in to see him cross the line first. So that was a pretty cool win for him in the Pinnacle Motorsports group. But we're running out of time on today's show. So again, we've got all sorts of drivers, all sorts of hockey players who we're obviously highlighting here now, but we're going to check in on later on, of course, down the line for this show. And we're bummed that we didn't get any of the baseball prospects or softball prospects today. So we'll make sure to designate some extra time to them next week. But do you have any final thoughts?
Just that the Four Nations is some of the best hockey I've ever seen played, and they should keep doing this every year instead of the All-Stars game because it is awesome. And USA and Canada facing the championship this Thursday, so that's where I'll be.
Yeah, it's going to be an intense weekend. We've got tons of local racing, tons of the regional hockey scene, and
and ASU hockey taking on Western Michigan, so that's a big one too.
Friday night, guys, go fill up Mullet Arena. I saw the videos from last week's gameplay, and I was a little nervous. But yeah, that's going to do it for this episode, number 6, here on the Scoutin' Session. Thank you guys so much for listening, as always. And again, Ella, we will see you next week. Glad to have you back with us again. If you're a returning listener, thanks for the support, and thanks again to Blaze Radio. Have a great rest of your week, you guys.